really, if and when they engage you and you're going to help them write that book and write it down, I know they'll pay you, right? But the return that they're going to get on it means what you're doing is basically free. Like, not only are you going to help them drive the value of their firm, they can use that internally as a little handout manual, but also it's going to help you grow. And given that marketing drives growth and growth is the fundamental thing that drives value.
I'd love to get your feedback on this. And so just to set it up a little bit, we work with founders, successful. I think many of them are in no man's land. It's like, if I think about it,
Yeah.
they're in no man's land where whether they're growing organically through referrals, whether they're scaling through acquisitions or some combination, they get to that point where they started as an advisor, they're successful, they've hired the team members, they have the junior advisor or advisors, they have the office manager, they have all the things that they were told that they needed,
Right.
and they're growing.
Yep.
But to me, the thing that I still look at is their calendar, right? So what is your calendar and how much of the business still runs through you, whether it's the clients, whether it's not all the clients, some of the clients, whether it's the judgment and the key decisions, having to go through you. And
Right.
so the solution that I help them with is what I call document to scale, which is, it's get the ideas, the judgment, the stories out of your head onto paper. And there's a version of this that probably many people do, SOPs and, operations manuals, et cetera. But to me, what I talk to people about is a book, right? And the reason for the book is that it does a couple things simultaneously. It creates the external facing messaging and marketing, assuming that you're the founder, you're the one that has the ideas, stories, et cetera, all that experience and judgment and knowledge.
Right.
We're capturing it so that for the client-facing world, you're the rainmaker. You're the person whose judgment they're coming for. You have the stories, you have the battle scars, et cetera. And then internally, we're also saying, hey, this is the messaging that we've captured, that we're now promising, essentially, that we want to make sure our team lives up to, right? And whatever the gap is, we're going to fix it and make sure that the external and the internal come together. And so just personally, what I love about this, and this is what essentially the value proposition I talk to founders about, is that when you're able to do that, the first thing is, well, I don't have time. That's like sign number one, you need this, right? Is that the less time you have, the more you need this. But when you do it and you operationalize it the way that we do, suddenly what happens is that you can step back. Like, I was able to stop working with clients directly because they're not really coming for my personality. I like to think I'm a nice guy, but they're really coming for the ideas. And essentially it's like, hey, they come for the ideas and now you're gonna be working with, my brother or a different team member. And I get zero pushback. I think I had one person who said, I want to work with you. And just because I was bored, I said, sure, why not? So I'd love to get your feedback from a founder, from your perspective, specifically how you see this in terms of just the idea of documenting your thinking, whether it's a book, whether it's something else, but how, from your years of experience, how that could potentially impact a firm, take whatever direction you want, enterprise, founder dependency, et cetera.
So I'd say, two parts we can bite off there. Number one is just eliminating the brain drain from your firm, eliminating it from the industry, because that's the part that I think as an industry scares me as a client. Right? I have an advisor. You think about if the average advisor is in their mid-50s and our average seller's in their early 60s, there's going to be a lot of intellectual capital leaving this industry if folks don't do a better job of that internal succession planning and writing it down, to your point. And maybe it's SOPs, maybe it's creating your client experience and building that into the CRM system. But even when you've done all that, there's still a lot of intellectual capital up here, right? And the problem is, because you've done this, you help clients with it. You can sit down, you can do that brain dump to your key team member, right? And he or she gets it. Great. And then you have a little more success and you do that same thing to the next one. Is it as good as the first time? No, it was better. Well, that means you didn't do it as good with the first one. So you get better at it as you go, or maybe you have an off day. If you just create the book and you write that stuff down, it's the best version and it's every single time. So I do think from a marketing perspective, obviously, yes, definitely a case to be made for what you're talking about. And given that marketing drives growth and growth is the fundamental thing that drives value, really, if and when they engage you and you're going to help them write that book and write it down, what you're doing, frankly, I know they'll pay you, right? But the return that they're going to get on it means what you're doing is basically free. Like, not only are you going to help them drive the value of their firm, increase, operationally probably, they can use that internally as a little handout manual, but also it's going to help you grow. And that's going to, you think about multiples today at 8, 9, 10x. If this can generate an extra $1 million of profits, an extra $1,000 of profits. Times 10, anything gets really big really fast, right? So I think that's one, really. I love the idea of the book from the brain drain perspective and helping make sure we don't lose all this intellectual capital you spent 2 decades grinding out to learn. Pass it on to the next generation.
And let me add one thing, and this
Yeah.
is, from my own personal experience, I'm gonna bring John Cunn back in, who we both know we've talked about, is that I just had him on the podcast, and he hasn't seen a
He should
client.
write a book.
He should write a book, and he did. And I talked to him about this, and
Okay.
he hasn't seen a client personally for 14 years, so he's clearly chosen the CEO path, right? And in the video that we just did, episode 4, in the past couple of years since he's written it, this is where he's giving out tens of thousands, because he has a big enterprise. So he's giving out tens of thousands of these. But what he said specifically is like he gets to meet the clients without ever meeting them, right? Because the book is in the seminar, the book is in this, and it's his smiling face, it's his wisdom. It's when you're hiring the firm, it's not just I'm hiring, associate. It's like, oh, this is John Cudd, and now I get to understand who he is. And so for someone like that, he doesn't have to be in the meetings. He's in the meeting without being in the meeting.
Yeah.
And this is me, because this is where the founder trap of letting go and, what's my purpose beyond? It's like, I'm like a kid in a candy shop, and you can see I'm a big guy. So, that means something. And it's because I'm constantly the visionary. I'm constantly coming up with my next book and my next ideas. And I say to my team, here's the book, run the play.